What's up, everyone? I'm Nathan Graham Davis, and I'm going to re-break in as a Hollywood screenwriter. Hey everyone, it's week 23. If you haven't subscribed yet, you are definitely going to want to do that. Some super cool shit coming up. So subscribe. So I finished my second draft of Aether a couple weeks ago. I sent it out for notes. And I got most of those back, and it turns out that people are really digging it, which is amazing. I felt confident, or more confident anyway, when I sent this out, but you never know what you're going to get back. And I did get some notes back for sure, but it just feels like I'm more like a lightweight rewrite away from finishing this whole thing than a couple drafts and a polish and whatever away. And that's an amazing feeling after 2 drafts of this. So happy that it's resonating with people. I'm actually going to read the last paragraph from one email I got just because it's so fucking cool to receive this. I've got to be honest, I know you took a break from screenwriting, but reading this, it really feels like you never left. The pacing is perfect. As far as I'm concerned, the character voices are distinct and feel real. The world building is exceptional, and I was completely transported during the read. I really think you have something special here that would make anyone sit up and take notice. I'm so glad you gave me a chance to read it, and I have no doubt it's going to get you some serious attention. So that was from a writer that I really respect and admire. Absolutely amazing to receive that email, especially just after like all of this and just everything that came before it, the ups and downs of my screenwriting career. I mean, I basically, I almost quit permanently, you know? So it feels like I'm back, and it's fucking awesome. So yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I got that, I got a little bit emotional reading that last paragraph. So anyway, next week I've actually got another notes episode coming up. That's with the Thornton brothers and Adam Taylor Barker. We dug into themes and just how I could kind of draw those out and make the ending even stronger. It was some really, really awesome high-level craft conversation. Cannot wait to share it with you. I think it'll be even better if you have a chance to read the second draft of Aether and just get that context. So if you want to do that, there is a link in the show notes below to a Google folder that has both drafts. So definitely feel free to check that out before you watch that episode. This week's episode is also really special. I connected with Jeff Willis and Jay Thornton and Mike Morin. Mike Morin, by the way, is the guy who did the cover art on the second draft of Aether. All subsequent drafts of Aether will definitely have that. And it is fucking awesome. But he's also a screenwriter, as are Jay and Jeff. And they've all kind of had really interesting, unconventional ways of kind of finding some momentum and success in screenwriting. So we had a conversation about exactly that, like ways that people can hustle on their own behalf and gain some momentum by themselves. And also ways to look out for your best interests while you're doing that, especially if you don't yet have reps or that strong circle of friends in the business to kind of help guide you along the way. So super cool. I definitely got something out of it. I hope you do too. And check it out. What's up?
Hey there.
How you doing, guys?
No complaints. Doing good.
Hanging in there.
Good. We are live, so this is going. Awesome. Let me set the stage a little bit for this one. So Jeff is the first industry friend that I ever made, basically, and he was on episode 1 of this and then gave me notes on Aether, and just seems fitting to have him on for like one of the final episodes of this series. And then Mike Morin is another dude that I've known forever. He is also doing the cover art for Aether, which I will definitely be dropping into this episode because it's fucking awesome. So I'm super excited about that. And then Jay is WGA screenwriter and one half of the duo that wrote and directed Cactus Jack, which was the first movie that I produced. So aside from the fact that we all know each other and have known each other a while, I thought it would be super cool to get us together because you three have all had some sort of movement or success in screenwriting. And you've all kind of approached that from really unconventional angles, or, you know, fell into it from unconventional angles. And so I thought that could make for a really cool conversation because I feel like that's something that I'm seeing more and more of, especially in all these interviews that I've had is that there's just no one path. And I think there's more that's possible now. So anyway, that's the way that it seems. And then also Jeff has the distinction of being a non-lawyer with a lot of legal experience, which might make it a really good time for you to throw out any disclosures that you want to get out of the way, or and also like your legal background and anything that you want to say on that end.
Oh, you mean the fact that I'm not a lawyer and nothing I give you is legal advice,
Right.
and I accept no responsibility for any poor decisions anyone makes? Yeah, that's
exactly
that's the disclaimer I need to give
that.
everyone.
Yeah, in the military, we call them barracks lawyers, right?
So, but you know, Jeff has been somebody who has helped a lot of people kind of wade through all the weirdness of dealing with many of the strange risks and you know, bumps along the way in screenwriting. He's kind of got a brand for that. He's put out a bunch of crazy good threads on Twitter, and supposedly someday will write a book if he ever finds the time. Yeah, he's a great resource, and has certainly been a resource to us. So anyway, what are you guys working on right now?
I am trying to finish the draft of a feature, as you know, and as you've been on my case about, but I'm very close. I'm very close. And then I have on the side just a TV pilot that's kind of has a little bit of traction going on right now, and just trying to wait to see where that ends up. Not holding my breath on that necessarily, but it definitely is more alive than it has been in the past few months. So that's kind of exciting too.
Yeah, and that's something that we're definitely going to come back to, because I think there's a super cool story behind that.
Sure.
And then Jay, you just released a crazy episode of Hard Out yesterday. I don't know if you want to shout that out.
Yeah, that's basically what we've been focused on until my kid goes back to fucking school and I can really dive into something creative. Is our podcast Hard Out, where we do this whole sub-series. Nate was on it, where Mike's going to be on it coming up soon, where we have somebody come on and talk about their favorite movie. At least that's like a jumping off point into a broader conversation. But we had an old friend of ours from back when we lived in the Boston area, hadn't talked to him much at all in like 20 years, who said he wanted to come on and talk about Dead Poets Society, which is quite possibly our favorite too. We got this whole issue where it's hard for us to nail down our own favorite, so it's absurd that we're asking other people to do that, but I can't ourselves. But sentimentally, it's probably our favorite movie. And I happen to know Gail Hansen, which many of us know here. Gail Hansen's a fucking mensch. He's one of the coolest, nicest dudes you'll meet in Hollywood. He played Charlie Dalton, Nawanda, in Dead Poet Society. So I hit him up to see if he would surprise our buddy in the middle of this podcast. And he's like, of course. And then being the guy that he is, he started recruiting other members of Mr. Keating's class. So we ended up with 3 cast members. And then another friend of mine, Jean, who's the former editor of Script Magazine, and now she's heading up Pipeline Artists. That's launching, I think, March 19th. She happened to be good friends with Tom Schulman, who won the Oscar for The Script. So she put me in contact with him. He said he'd love to jump in. So
crazy.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be, the format of our show is, it's like a 60-minute ticking time bomb of a podcast. It's called Hard Out because we have a 60-minute hard out where this buzzer sounds and kills the show even if someone's in mid-sentence. And that's all we were expecting it to be. And so we had Tom for like the last 15 minutes of it, etc. But with like a minute or two left, Gail convinced us, and it did not take much convincing, if they were going to stick around, to do a special overtime episode of Hard Out. So it's actually like 2 hours and 2.5 hours almost.
Dude,
of
it's
amazing.
So long. It's going to take me 4 weeks to get through that whole episode, but I watched like 15 minutes of it so far, and it's
dude,
awesome.
It gets good.
Like,
it gets good. They tell stories that none of them have heard before. They like surprise each other with stories and shit from the making of the film. It's great.
You know, I listened last night. That's definitely one of your best ones. I still don't know how you pulled it. Well, I do. You just told us how you pulled it together, but it's crazy that it happened. No, that was some magic.
Well, especially because we had like 23 subscribers, dude.
That's
like,
what I mean. Like, you guys have been doing this, but you haven't put any effort into marketing it or pushing it or anything. You've just put out like, I don't know, 50 episodes or something, it seems like at this point. But like,
this is our idea, is that we just hopefully keep doing better and better shows and then build an audience. And if you build it, they will come. But
I think
will
this
say,
one's going to blow it up.
I hope so. But I am asking people to subscribe, because if you watch the whole podcast, you'll see that we talk about doing a live reading like they did for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So getting the old crew back together, doing a reading of the script. And we haven't reached out to her yet, but the idea of going to Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda, to read Mr. Keating's part, was bandied about, which would be fucking amazing. And the Fast Times one they did for charity. And I know Robin had set up the Windfall Foundation. He and his wife, Zelda's mom, Marcia. So it'd be cool if we could make some money for the Windfall Foundation, maybe get her to read Keating's part. Tom was just emailing us about it today. Maybe we can get Peter Weir involved. I'm like, dude, let's do this.
That's awesome, dude. I'm psyched for you. I really do think that's going to blow up that podcast a bit, which is pretty cool. So I don't know, that might keep you guys a lot busier, but I know you love doing that anyway. Yeah. So that's cool. So Jeff, you're a Marvel exec. I know that you were really pumped about WandaVision coming out, and really, really proud of that. What else you got going on right now?
Yeah, no, I'm on the writing side. I'm just trying to get back into it, which, we were talking about kind of the different approaches we've all taken to our career, and mine, for better or worse, has been the get a day job in the industry and then write on your spare time. And
sure.
The lesson learned there is when you work full time in the industry, sometimes you don't have time on the side to do other things. So it's Marvel's been crazy. I mean, it's got WandaVision's just about to wrap up. Falcon and Winter Soldier's just about to drop.
So exciting.
What If and Loki are just around the corner. Like, I forget what the Investor Day presentation was, but it's something like 17 different shows and movies in the next 3 years. Like, it's nuts. So we're keeping busy, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude. It's funny. You're saying you had to get the day job and figure out the writing on the side, but out of the four of us, you're the only one that's been produced by somebody else, right? Jay is now a produced writer, and he bootstrapped that whole fucking thing, right? But you actually are a produced screenwriter produced by somebody else. So, and you did that without representation. You want to talk about how all that came together?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I definitely wasn't represented, but the connection was made through Bob, my writing partner, who did have a manager. Yep. So it wasn't entirely I just cold queried someone, but
the script was represented, right?
Yeah. So Bob, my writer partner that I write on a couple of things. We both do our own projects, and we periodically will work together if we are bored or have some time or come up with an idea together. And he had a connection at a basically made for TV movie company that they do Hallmark type movies, and they just churn them out. This producer has it dialed in where it's it's kind of like the Jason Blum method, where it's he makes every movie for exactly $1 million, not a penny over. He uses his own backlot because he owns a soundstage up in Simi Valley. Everything uses same locations. He has the script rewritten to match what he's got. And then he makes it for $1 million and turns around and, sells it to, Hallmark or Lifetime or whatever for 1.5 or whatever, and then pockets the cash and does it all again. It does 10 of those a year. So we got hooked up with him and an executive at his company who read one of our specs and really liked it and, thought it fit the slate. So they optioned it, and we did a bunch of rewrites, and they produced it. And it was kind of funny because that's actually the project that I actually talked with Mike with recently, where I told him I signed a bad deal that I would never do in most circumstances. Because
do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Yeah, isn't everybody's first deal a bad deal they wouldn't do again?
Yeah, but the difference is I knew it was a bad deal. I'm sitting at this contract, this contract is terrible. But it was the contract was basically a flat purchase price with unlimited rewrites that were deducted from the purchase price. So there would eventually be a point where they could ask for enough rewrites that we would just be doing them for free forever. Right. And we made a strategic decision to accept that. Well, because one, it was a take it or leave it deal, but two, we knew that these guys' production schedule didn't allow, it wasn't going to be something that languished in development for 10 years. They were going to get a couple of rewrites, and it would either get produced or they'd move on to something else. So we kind of took a gamble. And it's funny, we actually ended up earning out exactly, I think we did exactly the number of rewrites to pay for the purchase price. So we didn't do any free work, but we didn't make any free money either. It totally netted out. But yeah, that was the experience with the first movie that I have a credit on, and it first writing credit, and it sometimes airs on some channels, which we don't know because the producers never tell us when it airs. So it's always fun. Every once in a while, Bob and I will be like, "Hey, did you know this was airing on ABC Family tonight?" And we're like, "Nope, didn't know."
All right. So Bob was your way to this, right? But like, how did you and Bob connect in the first place? Like, where did that even come from?
Same place you and I did, the IMDb message boards.
What, is that right? Like, so, because I mean, that's where I met and connected with Bob as well, but I didn't know that you two connected there. So
yeah, we met, it was right after I graduated from film school, and I was working a job at an escrow company to pay the bills while I was waiting to get my first gig in the industry. And I basically just like, I was like an IT support guy that just sat at a folding table, like in the server room in the back, and didn't have anything to do all day. So I started like, I would write my scripts and I would go online, and yeah, that's how I met a ton of people was online message boards during the day when I didn't have any tech issues to troubleshoot. Yeah,
I mean, everybody that I met for like the first 7 or 8 years that I was writing screenplays was through message boards. So
Shot Talk Writers on IMDb, then Done Deal, then then it evolved to social media stuff.
I think Done Deal was the first one I fucked with.
Done Deal was for me, yeah.
Reddit's kind of doing the same thing now, though. Like, it's kind of taken the place of Done Deal, and I think it's actually better in some ways, which is interesting. I mean, there's definitely a bunch of crap you have to wade through there as well, but it's a pretty good community as far as free communities go. It's impressive. So Mike, how did you break in the first time? Like, because I actually don't, like, I know it came from Allison's dad. Do you want to talk about that?
I actually put together a timeline earlier just because for my own self, it's all compressed in my head. So I had to actually break it down, but I had a really weird entry. So when I was like 18 in high school, just for fun, me and my friend Daniel Harris, who's an artist, we wanted to make like an indie web game. Like, web games back then were pretty lucrative for an 18-year-old in high school, not like retirement money, not even close to salary money. But if you're in school, you could make a decent amount of money. And we weren't even really doing it for money. We just want to mess around and say, hey, can we make a game? We just did this thing for fun. I knew I wanted to do something narrative based. And this was actually, if I remember right, this is before Hollywood got obsessed with all the like reboots or retellings of fairy tales and public domain properties. I'm not positive. I want to say, I'm pretty sure we did ours before Tim Burton even said anything that he was going to do Alice in Wonderland. For us, the reason we went with a property that was a fairy tale was because stuff about the narrative would already be baked into their minds just from being familiar with it.
Nice.
So we wouldn't have to lay all the foundation of a story. We could kind of use a shorthand and then be able to make a story-based game in a shorter amount of time, if that makes sense. So
I don't feel like I was smart enough to do that type of thing.
I was going to say, can I interrupt for a second? Because
Sure.
that sounds like savant level strategizing for 17 or 18-year-olds.
Well, it's funny because and I can't stress it enough. There really was this was really just for fun. Like, we had no idea. Like, we knew it was a small possibility that we could make a little bit of money, and I'm talking like $500 money. So we made this game. We were expecting, like, if your game did good on that site, you would get 1,000 views. And then, so we released it, and it took off, and suddenly we're up to like 1 million views. And then we're getting messages from people asking us if they can put the game on their website. And so like, we kind of knew like, oh, we accidentally just did something. So we immediately started working on the sequel. Because that's the other thing I should mention about that business model is episodic content was very popular. Like, if it was a series, your fan base would build. Because if you want to tell, like I said, the challenge with this medium is to tell a long story in a short period of time, so you can then build on in a more.
You were Quibi before Quibi,
right?
I don't think I could say anything positive about that, but yeah. So
you made money.
Right. You said it.
Ouch.
When it's all said and done, I want to say between the series, the last I had access to the information, they were all played about over 50 million times, which
that's fucking insane. I didn't realize. I knew it was a lot, but I did not know it was at that
and that's
level
that number is from like 5 years ago. I tried to get the most recent numbers, but I can't log into the ad platform anymore. I get like $1 every few months in ad residuals.
You can still find it. Like, so I mean, I just Googled it and I was like, oh, this is still all over. Like,
dude, will you make us a Cactus Jack web game?
Oh, that seems. I don't.
I got some ideas.
We can talk about that after.
I bet you do.
All right, carry on.
We can talk about that after. If not, I could definitely get in touch with the right people. But So what ended up happening, to answer how that led to me breaking in, was so after the third one came out, I want to say 2010, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm going to feel bad about that. But the funny thing is so all the while this is going on, I'm writing on the side, like screenplays. I had never connected the two worlds. And then there was the story that hit about someone wrote like speculative history fiction on Reddit that went viral. I'm not sure. I want to say it was Rome Sweet Rome. It was like
I remember that.
I think that was the one.
Yep.
Yeah,
that
someone
was a
like
big one.
yeah, like the story went viral on Reddit, and then the rights got picked up. And I saw this headline, and then I'm like, oh, Mike, you idiot, you have a
It's like
property
Ben
that's
Affleck or some shit involved, right?
yeah, it was crazy. And it was, at the time, it was unheard of that, like, you know, viral media like that would be picked up. So I was like, oh, I have this game, I should reach out to someone. And at this point, I had been active on Done Deal Pro. So like Adam did, I reached out to one of the pros there and said, hey, I have this property. Do you think there's any way we could leverage it? You know, and they got back to me right away. Super generous, put me right in touch with the agent and stuff. 2 years after that, I had finished a script that I was comfortable with. So I reached out to that agent again. I said, hey, by the way, I actually wrote something. Would you be interested in checking it out? He ended up getting coverage done for it. The coverage came back really good. And he's like, yeah, let's see if anyone wants this. And so nothing ended up coming of that, except I did see the coverage. So if nothing else, I had kind of the validation that, oh, I actually can write. Because
yeah, and if a UTA agent takes you on, like, that's a good sign too.
Yeah, no, that was I still consider that an accomplishment. So that was the first time. I ended up still kind of working with that agent. I tried to get another actual video game project up and running. I made like a trailer for that and everything. We were trying to go to investors, but that didn't work. So I consider that the first time. That would have been about 2014 where that happened. And then I found a manager in 2015. We tried making something work with the pilot, but there was just kind of friction with where we wanted that to go. And then that was the first time to answer your question. And that's kind of super unconventional background.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I mean. Is like, you know, it's not the standard, like, you know, you write something and then like you start, you know, you go through the normal contest or querying route. Like you actually like had a really interesting backstory to that I think it also kind of shows like where a lot of your artistic sensibilities kind of developed, which I think is super cool. You know, that actually made me think of something that I wanted to ask about though. So you mentioned Rome Sweet Rome on Reddit, and like we're seeing more things like that where like things are getting picked up off of No Sleep. I wanted to get Jeff's thoughts on that because I think that's an interesting thing, right? So you're putting stuff out there on Reddit where, like, I remember, Jeff, you said to me not that long ago, like anything that you put on Reddit, even if you delete the post, it's like, it's still always out there on the internet, right? Like, obviously, like it has worked for some writers, like people that have sold properties, gotten options, things like that off of things that they've put onto Reddit. How do you protect yourself in that type of, like, you know, what's your opinion on that type of thing?
I mean, it's hard because you're kind of trying to reconcile two things, which is on the one hand, like the reason people are interested in those things is because it has an audience. Like the name of the game is you know, with everything, whether it's existing IP, you know, adapting books, you know, superhero movies, like the whole goal is that you have, in theory, a built-in audience that will you know, go and see the movie, so you can hopefully, you know, depend on some sort of a return and not just hope you're throwing something out and hope people like it. But the more visibility you get, the less control you have over, you know, over what's out there. And most of the companies I've worked for have been, you know, mildly interested in that kind of, you know, message board internet type phenomenon, but usually not enough to close a deal because of the murky nature of like where it came from. Now, if it's something that someone specifically created and put on a platform, that's different. But like if it's, you know, like evolution of like an epic thread that like, so like that usually gets a little too hairy. But like if someone creates content, you know, creates a Instagram story that takes off or something like that, then that becomes more interesting because they have one, you know, there's one or two specific owners of that material, and it's not like a crowdsourced project that they then have to get, you know, clearance from everybody that contributed to it or something like that.
So like if it's just one person posting one thing, there's a little less risk there. Because I remember the reason this came up was because I was telling you that I wanted to make my first draft public of Aether so that people could kind of see what it is that you guys were giving me notes on. And you were like, if you're going to do that, you need to do it in a Google Doc folder that you control, because then you can truly delete it at any point. And it's not just out there in the, pun intended, I guess, ether. But like, so is that still like, do you want to expand on that at all? Like that type of thing?
I mean, it's the same basic concept as, one of the things I've been working with a lot of writers on now is, either self-publishing or you kind of like going their own route with their own content. And it's the same advice that applies to whether you're making something available there or if you have your own website versus, a social media presence. And the thing is, like, as long as you are posting on someone else's platform, you are at their mercy in terms of what stays up, what comes down, what the rules are, what's permitted, what's not. So, I have a lot of friends that work, for example, in self-publishing, and they really rely on Amazon because they get a 70% royalty on, a certain book price. They get, Kindle page reads, a certain fraction of a cent for every page that's read. But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, there's nothing to stop Amazon from tomorrow just saying, you know what, the royalty is now 10%. And people's income would just crater. The same thing, like, right. you can build an audience on Twitter or of 100,000 followers, and tomorrow they could change the algorithm, which gets half the followers booted, or you're not allowed on the platform, or you're
didn't that happen to somebody with a lot of followers recently?
There was recently a story about a guy with a bunch of followers that got removed. But so what I always advocate for is, even if you're using those platforms as a megaphone, as a way to reach people, you should always host it somewhere where you have control, a personal website, a Google Drive if it's content, because then no matter what happens, if Facebook went away tomorrow, or they took down your product page, or Amazon stopped selling your product or banned you from the store, you would still have a place you could point people to online and say, this is where you can get the content. This is where you can still see the thing or experience it or buy it from. And that's usually what I tend to advise people against is making a platform dependent.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like something that I bumped into when I was doing more short stories too, and I'm curious if this has any crossover that you might be aware of. But like, so if I put a short story on Reddit, which I did do a couple times, I then found out that there was no pro level market. They're called markets for whatever reason, but publisher. There was no pro level market that would accept that, because that was considered published.
First publication. Yeah.
Right. So even though it was just on a Reddit post and I could delete it, they consider that published, and so they would not consider that as material. So I thought that was pretty interesting and something that I bumped into. But do you see any crossover with that in the film world, or does it not really care?
I mean, it's the same general concept, which is that everyone wants something new. They don't want something that's out there that
right.
That's already stale. So it's one thing if you're talking about like a company trying to get the movie rights to like an article that was published, right? Because it's out there and that's part of the appeal. But if it's content, then again, no one wants to kind of follow up on something that has already been made available. Like there's value in a company publishing, for example, a short story that no one's seen before. But if it's a free story that anyone can get on Reddit at any time, it makes it a little harder to say, hey, pay 99 cents for this when totally. You can go somewhere else and see it for free. And I think that it just like with the content you're making, again, the reason that I advised you against that on for Ether was the same general idea, which is that putting it out there in the world decreases its value for a company. So that's why I also told you to write something else in connection.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's kind of why I feel okay doubling down on this. Like I know that what I'm writing, it's just a long shot that it's going to sell anyway, right? So this is more about like trying to establish me as a writer of things that people like, hopefully. Yeah. So like I'm comfortable kind of taking this risk and doubling down on this whole transparency thing, because I know that like this is becoming like a $25-30 million movie, and it's a period piece, and it's just like that it's just stacking more odds against me as far as the sale goes anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, it
So-
ultimately comes down to control, though, because in the interest of not ruling out any opportunities, here's a good example. Amazon, when you self-publish something, in order to get into Amazon Kindle Unlimited, which is their pay per read, and you sign up for your Kindle Unlimited subscription, it's $10 a month, and you can read all the books.
Right. Yep.
All of that requires exclusivity with Amazon, which means you cannot publish those words anywhere else. So
Correct.
if you have only published a snippet of your book or whatever on your blog, your personal blog, then in order to get into Kindle Unlimited, if you ultimately decide that's an avenue you want to go, you delete the blog post on your website and you're good. But if you are posting that content somewhere where you don't have control over where it gets posted, then you can't take it down and you no longer have that option. And it's kind of the same thing with Ether. Is if you have it available on a Google Drive, once, let's say someone does want your script and they do say, you know what, I'm mildly interested in this. It's got a little bit of a following. You got a YouTube channel. Like this might be a fun flyer to take. As soon as you sell that script, the first thing they're going to do is be like, you know what, take it down from everywhere because now it's a development project and we own it.
Of course. Yep.
So it's easier to, again, sever a Google Drive link and say, hey, no one can get it anymore, than saying, well, gee, I posted it on Reddit, Facebook, Instagram. It's floating around out there. A bunch of people have it. It just makes it easier for you to
and see.
Cut cords.
This is why we appreciate you. So, So Jay, back to unconventional. So, do you remember what the moment was when you guys were kind of like, fuck it, and you decided to make your own movie?
I mean, it was so damn long ago, but
yeah, it was.
I mean, it kind of goes back to how we broke in again. Like we had placed in those contests, and then we ended up doing the agency tour and met at CAA and whatever. We ended up signing with Mike Sola at WME at the time, and Mike Sola was shit hot. I think we've told a lot of this story when we appeared before in your podcast. But we just went. I don't know, man. I mean, I think we had a pretty typical run. A little success here, a little there. Just when you want to just step away from it, something goes right and just keeps pulling you back in, that kind of shit, which I think a lot of us can relate to, getting strung along. But I had cancer, went through chemotherapy. At one point during chemo, Chris and I were like, he was living here at the time, because we had this Zac Efron deal we were living off. And we're like, why don't we just take this camera we have and just shoot a 2-person, 0 crew short film? So we shot this short film. I'm running around with the camera shooting it, like literally with a chemo pump on, taking chemo medicine at the time.
So that was Knock Knock, right?
Right.
I forgot that you were going through that at that time. That's so crazy.
Yeah. And then coming out of chemo, we dealt with, Jeff was a big help with some information on that end. We had a show called The Revenger that we had optioned to the Weinstein Company. And we started getting roped into that and the development of it and everything. And we're just like, I don't think this is the way we want to tell stories. But I think it was just an accumulation of development hell scenarios where we're just like, this is not what we want to spend the rest of our lives doing, man. Take it like Mike writes very specific shit and he has a vision. So when he takes these things in, he starts getting these notes and just chips away at it, and you start wondering, what the hell am I doing? Right? Like, what story am I going to end up telling if I even sell this thing? Especially in TV, then you're married to it.
Right. And that's kind of why, when I quote unquote broke in that first time, I learned a lot about what's I guess call them poisonous compliments or empty compliments, because you can, at the time I had no previous interactions with the business, so I'm hearing things, and my ability to distill what's real and what's just trying to get me to sign something or trying to get me to go with this team versus that team, it's all noise and it's all shiny at the time. So to go through that, I am grateful that it actually didn't happen, because it taught me some things that led to it not happening. So with the latest project that does have
let's talk about that, because I fucking love this story.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So what was different about this time that I'm very, very grateful for was I had first of all, I think all of you here read it, gave me great notes and positive feedback. And in addition, Christy LeBlanc had read it, and my friend Amber Alexander had read it. And for the first time ever, without me asking, they both unprompted offered to give me a recommendation to their representation for it. So I was like, okay, I know how, like, writers don't do that unless they actually think.
like,
and that's how it should be. You should never ask for a referral.
right.
Oh yeah, no, and I think I've, I try so hard not to call in favors like that unless I absolutely need it and think that I need it. Not that I want it, it's if I need it. So I don't think I've ever asked for a rep referral. I'm trying to think. If I did, I'm sorry, but
it says a lot, dude. Like when somebody offers to do that unprompted, right? Like
yeah, and that I'm so grateful for that, because that gave me internalized faith in that project that made me know, no, this isn't just a friend being polite saying, oh yeah, it's great. It's there's a risk that they're taking by them offering to do that. Now, the only mistake I made in that situation was I had already contacted this previous person that I had worked with saying, hey, I finished this. Would you be interested in representing me? I have 2 other people that might want to take a look at it. So, right away, oh yeah. We want to do this, sign with us. We'll get this out there. We'll do all this stuff. So not wanting to, have Chris or Amber look bad, I said, hey, I appreciate that you were going to do that, but just if they haven't read it yet, tell them not to worry about it. I just kind of signed with this other place. So a few months go by there. I'm starting to see a little bit of red flags again. There's not as much communication as I would have liked. And then I think what did it for me, and it was I was on a call that I was told to prepare for like a couple of weeks. Found out the party I was talking to hadn't actually read it, and then my representation mentioned a robot, and that script did not have a robot in it. So I was like, okay,
welcome to Hollywood.
But I was like, all right, this is and
so shitty.
And the messed
So
up part
typical.
is that I actually started turning the call around with the development person we were talking to, because they had a totally wrong understanding of the project. And I started explaining, and I could tell that they were getting more interested in it. But after that, I was like, you know what? I was like, this project is not going to work with these people. And I'm taking a big risk by walking away. And I just want to clarify too, when I say something like that sounds harsh. I have no ill will towards my previous representation. It's just, I was too small of a fish for him, and I appreciate them giving me the time of day, but I realized in that moment it was not a fit, and it was never going to be a fit.
And sometimes it's just not. Like, I mean, I've said that about my previous manager on this show as well. It's like,
so as much as
he's an effective manager, it just wasn't a fit for me,
Exactly. So. Yeah. So as much as I can like joke about that, he's probably juggling 50 clients and he made a mistake, but it's a mistake that I caught, and it made me kind of realize, like, this at this level, it's not going to work. So I just walked. I had no plan. I had no backup people to contact about it or whatever. So I walked away from it. I started just doing the traditional querying again.
Was that back in August when you asked me to about the log line and got this whole shit
It was
started?
it's super close to what you blame me for.
I'm totally going to mention that right now. So Mike is Mike is the reason that this whole series exists. Like 100%, because in
Son
August,
of a bitch.
like,
I'm sorry.
So you're the one.
He's the reason I'm writing this script.
Blame me, Jeff.
He's the reason any of this is happening. So I'm sorry, guys, but really blame Mike. But he messaged me and asked me. He's like, "Hey, I know you're not a screenwriter anymore, but can I bounce this logline off you?" And I'm just like sure, but like that, I know you're not a screenwriter thing anymore, like that stuck with me for a few days and just kind of burned at me. So I was like, fuck, I gotta write screenplays again. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't want to not be a screenwriter anymore. And so like I got right back into it and decided I was going to write one and document it and all that, and it would not have happened without that message. So I just think it's funny how things work.
And to be fair, I think weirdly, I think seeing you go through with this and being as diligent about it as you have kind of lit the fire under my ass again, because
see, it comes full circle.
Yeah, no, because I was doing those those rounds of traditional queries again and running them by you, and you were asking me, you're like, hey, have you sent out more? Because I was doing it super, like I was doing like 3 at a time. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna get a very specific list and target people. So the way it ended up actually connecting me with the production company that I'm working with now is before I even broke in the first time, broke in. I had written a bad script, like a real bad script that I won't even show anyone. I don't think I have it. I hope I don't have it still. and an actor had happened to start like their own production company, and they put out almost like a, hey, we'll read stuff if you send it. So this is like 10 years ago, I queried them. He actually asked to see it. I sent it, didn't hear anything, rightfully, and totally forgot about it. Didn't think anything of it. You send it to so many places, you don't hear anything. That's just how it works. Well, flash forward to, I'm striking out with queries. No one's responding. I'm like, oh, did I, screw up? Like, is bad management better than no management? And the answer to that is no. Don't have bad management. You're better to have nothing, I think, than to have bad or misleading management. But
would we all agree with that? I would.
I've been telling people that for years.
It's like, it's scary after, if you walk away, which I did, you have that like, oh shit feeling, like, oh shit, what did I just do? But then you start to realize, no, it's a scary decision, but it's the right one.
Depending on the kind of stories you want to tell, no representation might be better than good representation, because the market's still not going to be interested in it. You know what I mean?
Right. Or just, I think now, I think I know enough now to tell if someone genuinely gets what I'm trying to say. And that's the skill I just didn't have before from inexperience and being naive. But so I was basically exhausting my list of queries, and no one's responding. And I'm like, oh, what did I do? And then for whatever reason, it just sparked. It's like 10 years ago, I had a flashback to querying this specific person. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, if they're still doing this, that they legitimately might be a good fit for this project. So I pulled up my Gmail. I found the email from 10 years ago.
Did you see like a movie that the actor was in or something like that?
It's just their history of it. And I have this really weird quirk when I'm working. I like to listen to long form interviews. Like, I don't like press junkets where it's like 4-minute, like just softball questions. Like, oh, how was, did you like jumping out of the exploding? I like the long form, like,
totally,
where they really get into the nitty gritty of the craft, because then as a writer, it's cool to know what the actors are thinking. I don't know. It's just like my kind of what I like to listen to. So just having heard this person talk over the years, I'm like, I know when they say they like genre stuff, they're not bullshitting. I know when they say they like comics, they're not bullshitting. Like, this is kind of what they like. And then I remembered, like, I had that email, and I said, you know what the hell? I'm gonna just say, hey, I have this project that I think you would actually be a really good fit for, and then send it along. Not the script, just send it out the email. And then I send it, and then I immediately get back this like one of those auto response emails saying like, this inbox is no longer in service. So I'm like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. It was 10 years ago. So 2 weeks go by. It's like 2 a.m. and I get an email saying from this actor. Yes, from this actor saying, super polite, like, hey, sorry I missed your message. My email was full or something. He's like, I'm pretty busy right now, but I'd love to take a look at this thing. So I was like, whoa. So I send it along, and then in the email, I should say, they said, I'm real busy, so it might be a while before I get to it, which a normal read, as far as I've had experience with people that are supposed to read your stuff, is like a week or 2 weeks. That's if you're lucky. So I'm thinking, okay, like,
that's good.
Yeah. So I'm not like, I'm like, oh, this is really cool, they asked for it, but I'm not expecting like an immediate response. So I send the script, and I want to say like an hour or two later, I get an email back, and all it says is, halfway through, who are you? like almost like how the, like,
this is so fucking awesome. Like, I remember when this is happening. I'm still getting like chills thinking about it.
Yeah, well,
like,
dude, and it was blowing my mind, because there's such a series of events that you could never calculate. This couldn't have been a calculated move. And I was just like, whoa.
So the audience should know that this actor is the shit. I'm jealous, literally jealous of you.
Yeah.
Because I sent him an email like 10 years ago too, and never followed up again. He's the shit.
And I've not, the only reason I'm not mentioning him is just because I don't want people
to
bombard him.
We'll use a pseudonym.
But I can't
Willis
speak
will
highly
slap
enough
you
about
if you
him.
mention him.
Yeah. But no, so he ended up reading the whole thing, said he loved it, gave me his personal number. And probably the funniest part was he just said, call me. It's not, he didn't, because normally it's, you set a time for a call, that time gets pushed, and then you get to set a new time. No, he just gave me his number and said, call me, just call me. So I was like, okay. So, I called him up. We kind of, I just explained a little bit about, why I had him in mind. He told me, why he liked the script. And I mentioned before briefly, you start to be able to sniff out what's real and what's fake as far as compliments go. And he was mentioning just for me, he saw a comedy in the project that I think unless you really got it, you wouldn't even know it's there. Like if you're pitching this thing as like a purely commercial, like commerce mind, you're gonna say, oh yeah, it's dystopian sci-fi. But he said the words, it's funny. And that's how I knew, okay, he gets it. Because as
awesome.
like it takes place in a terrible world, like future world you would never want to live in, but there is humor. And once I heard him say that, I'm like, okay, like I actually trust this person. So yeah, he has his own production company. There's a few other people that I've been interacting with, but to give Jeff credit real quick though, because I did navigate all of this without representation. Jeff was super generous with his time and his wisdom as far as navigating the contracts that I was given and just advising me on what potential pitfalls could be. So I know I've thanked you already, Jeff, but I have to thank you again for being there for me in my corner. And that kind of just goes back to I don't like to ask for favors unless I feel like I absolutely need one. And that was one of those cases where I called you in.
Well, I mean, all three of us have had a lot of help from Jeff over the years, and like one way or the other, So I mean, and we're like,
Jeff's kind of an institution for guys at our level. It's like, go seek out Red and Shawshank or some shit.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that lawyers actually slowed the process down. I mean, I for one am shocked that that's the case. But,
So for people who don't have a Jeff and who are flying solo, like without reps and doing something really like gutsy, like querying an actor or, whatever, like they're doing something really unconventional, aren't repped yet, but like are at that level where they have really good material. Like where do they even go? Like, how do they navigate that? Like, how should they proceed?
I have a theory. I don't know if it's right, so they can correct me if I'm wrong. I think as soon as I had that actor respond, that if I queried not any, but a majority of managers or agents, if I told them that, I think my phone would have been ringing and they would have been looking to sign me. I just specifically chose not to do that because I kind of have that paranoia now where I don't want them chasing a quick sale. I don't want them wanting to be involved with me because they see something that's about to happen and then it's done.
Yep.
But if I had no contacts, and if I had done my research and there was a manager or an agent out there that I legitimately wanted to be involved with anyways, and I had this situation arrive, I think that'd be a great way to get their attention.
Reps are interested in clients for the same reason that studios are interested in IP, right? Like they want a proven quantity, and like,
right.
And again, like I know that I'm speaking for the company side here, but like you have no idea how many scripts like they get all day long, and those are from like vetted, like actual connections. Like the few times I've dealt with companies that have had an open submission policy where they're like, hey, this will be a great idea. We're going to find all this stuff that no one's like thought of before. Like I'm talking thousands of scripts a day, like and most of them are terrible. So, for the same reason that studios want IP, they want something proven, they want something that they know, has a chance, is the same reason why reps want that one thing you have that makes you stand out, that says, you know what, I'm a serious person here. And it could be a connection to existing talent. It could be someone else saying it's good. It could be winning a reputable contest. They want that thing that says, I'm not wasting your time if you give this a read. And for me personally, I've never had a rep because I haven't needed one.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Like I haven't had a rep. I haven't ever had an official rep. I've been hip pocketed a couple of times, which I actually prefer.
I remember that.
But my issue is that, there are a lot of different things a rep can do for you. And most of the things that most reps do, I don't need. I don't necessarily need like a developmental partner to tell me what's a good script. I don't need someone to explain a contract to me or the way Hollywood works. And I certainly don't need someone to like open doors for me because I can call up executives I've worked with and get my stuff read. So the times that I've had conversations with potential reps, it's always been, I only need one specific thing, which is I have a day job that takes up a lot of my time. So I need someone who can tell me what rooms I should be in, what things I should not pay attention to, and get those things set up. Tell me what, OWAs are worth my time. Tell me what companies are worth meeting because they're spending money and hiring people now. And the answer is very few reps do know how to do that. So I've never needed a rep in that respect. But the pitch that I've always gone to for reps when I have been talking with them is, my experience is I have been working in this business, and granted, it's been mostly on the business side. I've done a little creative, but mostly business. I've been in this business for 20 years. I know what a good script is. I know what a good project is. I know what a good, budget number is. And I'm not wasting your time if you read this. Like I have put the thought into it, and I think this is worth your time. And that's been really successful for me because, similar to an attachment, it's telling someone that, again, I'm not wasting your time. I'm not just, throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks. I am telling you, if you take the time to read this, even if it may not be for you, even if it may not be something that works, you're not going to step away from this feeling like I wasted your time. And that's all I think anyone's really looking for, is they don't want their time wasted. So
Sure.
To Mike's point, if he had said, I have a connection with, such and such actor or talent, then what that tells a potential rep, and again, whether it's an attorney, whether it's an agent, whatever, is he's good enough as a writer to get the attention of someone else in this business who is a recognizable name. And that's valuable because that tells them it's worth their time to at least think about it and not
check it
at
out.
least give it 10 pages or whatever.
Right. What about so let's say there's somebody who, because they do a great job hustling, they connect with a producer and come up with like a $10,000 to $15,000 sale, right? So like real money to the writer, nice start, but like not big when it's 10%, right? Certainly not big when it's 5% for a lawyer. What's a good like step for somebody like that, like to kind of safeguard themselves, like make sure they're not getting too screwed over on the deal?
I mean, each deal is different, but if we're talking low dollar values, then there's not a lot you can do about that, because if a company only makes $1 million movies and they only have $50K for the entire writing budget, like you're not gonna suddenly convince them to pay you $100,000 for the script. You're just not.
Correct.
So in situations like that, where what their hard limitations are, then if it's a low budget thing, then the only thing you can do is limit the amount of investment you have to make in it, which is as few steps as possible, as short a timeline as possible, so you can get your money and get out and move on with your life. So
that's awesome. That's something that you should be thinking about, is like, how do I make sure that I'm not investing too much of my time and like bandwidth in this? So that's pretty cool. Like, what about the legal side? Like, I mean, would you suggest somebody go to like a lawyer that they'd be just kind of paying rather than doing the 5% thing? Would you say, are there like good resources?
If you can find a lawyer, like obviously you should run everything by an attorney. And if you can find one that'll take a commission, that's great. The problem is on those low dollar deals, the commission doesn't end up being worthwhile, because you figure an attorney, and as much as I joked that they slow things down, I mean, the reason it slows down is because they spend a lot of time, vetting things and making sure it's accurate. So
those big firms slow it down too. Like we have a guy who used to work at a big firm, a very big firm, whose wife got sick, so he left, and he found just working out of his own home suited him better. So he's just a solo guy now. And we've had deals where it would take literally 2 fucking months for the other side's big firm to fix like a single red line, and he'd get it back, and within an hour he's got it back to them. But it's the bureaucracy of those big firms that sound like, you get to name drop it to your parents. I'm at the same, law firm as whoever these A-listers are, but it's not necessarily the best. So you might be able to find just a little guy who will spend 5 hours on it.
And that's true. I mean, and that's because those big firms are, they negotiate differently than small firms do. Like everyone on this podcast needs an attorney to serve the function of basically like looking out for your interests, right? Reading the contract, suggesting changes, turning it around quickly. And that's not always what the big firms do. A lot of times the big firms are more concerned with, with positioning themselves and establishing precedent for high-level clients. So it is a lot of the notes and a lot of the suggestions have to go up the ranks. It's, hey, look, if I ask for this on this deal, does this screw up what my other partner is doing with this other,
Exactly.
There's a lot of politics involved.
Which is conflict of interest though.
Yeah. And
to a degree.
It's, so, the hard thing is, again, if you're talking about a $10,000 deal, like 5% of that is probably not going to earn out their hourly for the amount of hours they put in. So they may charge you a flat rate. The best advice I usually give people is get your contract, well, obviously you have to understand your own contract. So like look at it and stuff. But if you have a minimal amount of money to spend on an attorney, you should do it at 2 points. One, you should consult with them first, like the minute you get the paper, and have them explain to you anything you don't understand. Because like contracts aren't complicated. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I know how to read a contract at this point just because I've looked at a bunch of them. So like it's not impossible to understand and break through the legalese. So if you have limited funds, hire an attorney for a minimal amount of time to just say, look, I'm going to send you a contract. I have like 20 questions about specific things in here and why this is this or what this means. Get your answers. Then, if you need to and you're completely strapped for cash and can't hire them to negotiate the full thing, negotiate it yourself, look at the changes, look at the red lines. And then when you think the contract is, when you think the contract reflects what you want it to be, then send it back to the attorney and say, I'm thinking about signing this. Can you double check it and make sure that I don't have any, I'm not shooting myself in the foot. There aren't any red flags, which is what you guys all pretty much do to me at this point, which is like, hey, I'm thinking about signing this. Is there any reason I shouldn't?
So yeah, I had a killer lawyer at one of those big firms, and the deals did take a long time, but I will say, I never made him real money, right? Like the option for Aftermath would have been like, if the movie got made, it would have been like 300 grand. So it would have been totally legit, but like the option fee was not anything close to that. And so, I always felt like really grateful that he did that. But then like a couple years later, nothing had happened. And I emailed him for something and I got completely ghosted. So I think like he had been happy to move on, So I was like, I guess I don't have a lawyer anymore.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, ghosting someone I don't like under any circumstances, but at least have the balls to like say something, but it's the same the same reason that that studios take flyers on projects and stuff. Like attorneys take flyers on people. They're like, look, if I do this deal and I put a little a little work into it, it sucks because I don't really care about the $50 I get in commission on the option. But like if this thing goes, then yeah, I get 5% of 300 grand, and then suddenly that's worth my time. But yeah, if 2 years go by and nothing happens and the project's basically dead, they're probably not looking to come back for round 2 and renegotiate a second option or
right
anything like that.
Totally.
Like, can we get to a point where there's a boilerplate fair contract so we don't have to do all this back and forth every fucking time?
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It's amazing. It's amazing how much every deal has to be amended.
The amending contracts is the lawyer version of getting studio notes, which is people have to justify their jobs. They can't go back and say, look at this red line I put together. Then, they're worried someone's going to be like, well, what do we need you for if you don't
like
ever make
there's
notes?
certain things in these contracts, every single writer's attorney red lines. It tries to get out. So you'd think eventually the firm would just be like, we're wasting money having people contend these points all the time. Stop putting them in these things. But I don't know. You'd think from the top they'd say
it works
stop
out for everyone because the studio attorneys are all on salary, so they don't.
Yeah, they're still billing. They're billing the actor, whoever the producer that you're dealing with.
Gets a bill for the hours, so it's
all a shell game. Fucking Hollywood, dude. It's so much bureaucracy you deal with because everyone's taking a slice at their point of the. Yeah, it's a mess. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. And so, it's something that I'm definitely going to be exploring more of is more micro budget stuff. And it's kind of like, that makes me think of just using things like, trying to like work. I don't know if LegalZoom even has entertainment documents, but it's just trying to, find boilerplate stuff that I can use and feel pretty comfortable with, because I think that should serve for basic stuff like that. Right.
The issue with legal stuff in most cases is that it has to be a little bespoke for your circumstances. So there's you can find a generic location release online. You can find a generic, photo consent, all the things that you kind of need here and there. You can find versions of it online. The value that a lawyer brings is customizing it for your needs and making sure that you're protected. But if you just needed a general release for something, you can find most of that stuff online. And again, to my point earlier about maximizing the bang for your buck with an attorney, it's the same way. You can get those boilerplate things make the adjustments you think you need to make, you know, to customize it to your situation, and then send it to an attorney and say, look, here's my situation, here's what I'm trying to do, here's a contract that I marked up, can you fine tune it for me? And you'll end up spending a lot less money in the long run than saying, hey, attorney, can you draft me some, you know, some
Right.
form agreements from the beginning?
See, that's smart stuff. Like, and I think that's so valuable to like share that, right? So that's a great way to kind of like hedge your bets a little bit, you know, but not spend as much.
I mean,
so,
you know, at the end of the day, the thing is, you know, you should. What do they say? You know, the only a lawyer who represents himself is a fool for a client or whatever. Like you're only an idiot if you rely on your own legal expertise when you're not a lawyer. Like, but there's no reason you can't take a swipe at it as long as you're having an attorney as a backstop to like advise you. So like, but yeah, if you want to mark up the agreement 20 times and send it back and forth with someone you're talking with, you know, like who cares? As long as you haven't signed the agreement, you're not obligated to anything. So just make sure you've got an actual professional looking at the last end product and being like, okay, that's a problem. Don't do that.
Right. You can run like 3 legs of the race and hand the baton off to them just to finish it out.
Exactly, and it's way cheaper than asking an attorney to run the whole marathon for you.
Exactly.
Totally. What are your guys' thoughts on stuff like other things that writers do to protect their work with, where they're like watermarking scripts or having people sign NDAs, things like that?
I try to write shit that's unmistakably ours, and I don't worry about that stuff too much, to be honest. I mean, maybe I should, but
my general advice for stuff like that is like, if you're concerned about theft, like you're not sending it to the right places.
Right. That's another thing too.
You shouldn't be sending someplace you think might steal it from you. And
you're putting it on a Google Doc online.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're like some idiot that, you know, posts something online for everyone, for the whole world to see, or walks them through the process of their screenplay step by step. But no, it's, you know, the advice that I usually, you know, kind of give people is, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard, but it's like, you should know where you're submitting. You should only work with reputable people. If you have any concerns at all, don't send it. And, you know, the thing I always remind everyone is that it is like a reputable company that obviously doesn't have a history of like stealing stuff and cheating people. You know, like a reputable company, it is cheaper for them to buy something than it is to litigate an infringement lawsuit. So if you're dealing with a place and you're worried about theft, like if it's a legit place, they'll just buy it from you rather than hassle with all that stuff. So
especially with email, with the paper trail nowadays, it's not like you're cold calling people on a phone and shit and sending them.
And proving infringement is really
copies.
difficult. Like it's a very long, tedious process. No one wants to go through it. Half the time when there's an infringement lawsuit, they rely on their E&O insurance as a backstop and settle anyway. Like there's so many things that like point to it just not being good business to steal stuff from people. So the fact that if you're concerned about that, like if you're concerned about people reading your work, like you shouldn't be a writer. Like someone's got to read it at some point if you want to sell it. And, you know, the other part of that is, you know, it's just, if you're asking people to sign, you know, NDAs and stuff like that, it shows a profound lack of understanding of how this industry works. Like this industry is built on people passing scripts around and saying, did you read this? This is great. Or a development exec saying, hey, like, can we run this by our budget guy and see if we can actually get it done? If you make someone sign an NDA that prevents them from sending it to someone, what do you think they're going to do with that script? I read it. I'm kind of interested, but I don't want to have to go back and ask for permission just to get it vetted for budget.
It's a red flag that you're just going to be a pain in the ass.
Right.
General.
It's a huge flag that you are either don't understand the business or are way too paranoid to work with.
Right.
Because at a certain point, it's an industry built on trust and personal relationships. And if you start out that relationship saying, I don't trust you, sign this agreement, I want to protect myself, then that's not a great way to start off on. And I should mention that, you know, obviously a company's in a different mindset. They do have you sign NDAs because they have actual proprietary stuff they want to share. But if you're just a creative trying to get your script out there, like the point is to get your script out there, not to restrict access to it.
Cool.
Preach.
So I guess I'd love to end this on like what are next steps for you guys? So like Jay, you just made a movie. Mike, you got this crazy cool story about the shopping agreement that's going on. Jeff, looks like you might have another Hallmark thing in the works.
No, I mean, I'm always kind of flirting with projects and stuff. And I mean, for me, really, like, I'm at a good point in the day job where like I'm enjoying my job, what I'm doing. It takes a lot of time, but I'm kind of dialed in there. So I'm just at the point where I'm trying to explore my writing again, figure out what that looks like. And, you know, I know Jay will back me on this, but like looking into, publishing your own stuff, getting your own content out there, I still enjoy screenwriting. So I'm kind of in a constantly evolving process of like figuring out what it is I want to write. Do I want to work on a book right now? Do I want to work on a script? And figuring out what ideas interest me and what form they're best executed in.
And you just don't seem like you're in a hurry at all to figure that out. Like you're really comfortable.
Dude, it works at fucking Marvel.
It's
pretty cool.
I mean, the blessing and curse of a day job is you get a recurring income. Like I don't need writing income to pay my bills.
Right.
Which on the one hand is a nice luxury to have, but also like doesn't exactly light a fire under me because I'm like, I'm tired today. I'm just gonna relax rather than like I gotta get words on the page because I gotta pay the bills. So
wait till the pandemic's over and he's fucking commuting again. And during that commute, he'll be like, oh my God, I gotta start writing.
Right.
You know what? I thought when the pandemic happened, because I'm not commuting, I would have like an extra 3 to 4 hours a day that I could write. And it's just
now
not filled up with work.
Yeah.
And kids, working kids.
Totally.
What about you guys, Jay and Mike?
I mean, we're just all about experimenting at this point. I feel like we've had marginal success in the industry, but aren't sure we even want to be a part of that ecosystem anymore, just the way it operates and the kind of stories we want to tell and the things we want to do. So for us, there's no proven path to marketing self-distributed works that we know of. So what we're doing right now is just trying to keep putting out content, making cool shit, trying slowly find an audience. The podcast is a passion now. We both love that. I mean, to be honest, if that took off, which it's just as unlikely as writing, of course, I don't know how much I'd write. I'd probably still write. I definitely don't know how much I'd be out shooting shit. Even if we make another film, we're talking maybe a horror anthology where we can make it in little pieces, a short here, a short there, stitch them all together, we just want to be smart and economical. Willis was talking earlier about time and time being wasted. To us, that's the most precious commodity in the world is time. And I feel like writers waste a shitload of time in their life. OWAs, chasing OWAs, all that. It's so much time can be just lost that we're just trying to do things that we enjoy, that
totally
others might enjoy. I don't know. That's, our motto, like it or don't. Anyway, it's like, hopefully you enjoy it, but we're making this shit regardless. Cactus Jack is a movie we would want to see as a horror movie. Maybe no one else does, but we made it for us essentially in hopes there are some other kindred spirits out there who might.
I think there's still a lot of time for that thing to find its audience. So
yeah, for sure.
Excited to see where it goes. Mike, what about you, man? What do you got?
No, like I mentioned briefly before, I'm very close to finishing this feature I've been working on for a while, and I might eat these words, probably very likely I will, but I just have that feeling about this one that it has the potential to pop off and make something happen. I don't know why. It's got that weird energy kind of at the core of it that I think, if nothing else, kind of like what you're doing, I think it'll get attention. And that's a huge asset in its own right these days, is just if you can get their attention. And then if I can do that, and if I can do it competently and, stand out, then I'll be happy with that. And then, the TV stuff is kind of doing its own thing right now, so I don't really have to focus too much on that. And then
that's cool. I totally agree with what Jay said though about your writing. Is like, you're a guy with a vision, and like it's like sometimes you'll bounce shit off me and you'll be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And I'll be like, honestly, it makes zero sense to me, but I'm pretty confident once you write it, it's going to be awesome. So just write it. Like,
when Jeff was going into the qualities of what he looks for in a rep, or what he would look for, and then just knowing how, from talking to Jay and stuff, I think the three of us are probably very similar in the sense that I don't think I could ever work healthily with a rep that wanted to micromanage every step of the process, or even in some cases vet the ideas, because I know some writers that their reps have made them like make 30 log lines and then run them all by him. And to me,
that was our first experience.
That's to me, that would be torturous.
And then shot everyone down with like a 1-word reason now.
Yeah.
Because it was a huge part of why I stopped, all that. So just, not just the rep, but it was like the rep and the industry and everything. It was just kind of so much time spent just trying to throw stuff out there and without actually creating anything.
Right.
It just sucked.
And I think, a responsibility as a writer, if you're doing it well, I think, is you're going to be showing someone something that they haven't seen done before, or something that they haven't seen done that way. So your idea should, I think, at least be a little bit hard for someone to fully get. Like it should excite them easily, but if they can picture your idea from start to finish after you tell them it, then why are you the one to make that thing? You know, I think you kind of have to.
I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah. So
Screenwriting's great and all too, but I will say, back to the hyphenate nature of what we're doing nowadays, that it's like you're going to chart this path through a waterway to get to the other side, which is having this story told that the audience can then get their hands on. Screenwriting is like mapping out the most arduous, horrible route you could possibly take. It's like, I'm going to go through the swamp where the gators are, and then I'm going to go through here where there's the volcanoes, and usually the storms blow through here. You know, it's the most treacherous way to try and reach an audience. So don't be afraid to write short stories, which are great equations into films. That, you know, write the short story first as your first outline, or a stab at telling that story or whatever, and then you got something you own that you could show to people, etc. Maybe even option the film rights if you have enough collections of short stories or something. And then novels, of course, could be either a film or a TV show. You're usually not going to get a TV show out of a short story, I don't think, but it could happen depending.
Probably has.
Just don't be afraid to take those first stabs and have something that's completed and can live on its own without all these other fucking people having to vet it and this and that. And
I hear you.
What were you saying, Jeff?
I was going to say that, you know, screenwriting is also the one that's most dependent on other people telling you yes. So if you're trying to get across a river, it's like screenwriting is the one where it's like, hey, can you take me to the midpoint? Oh, hey, can you take me to the next island? Hey, can you take me to the next island? And you have to tell you yes. Creating your own content's like making your own boat. You know, like for better or worse, you may still not get to the other side, but at least it's your own efforts and ingenuity that's doing it.
I'll never stop writing short stories at this point for exactly that reason. Like, it's like I really love movies, and like that's definitely like the pinnacle for me, like of being able to create something, right? But like it is just different. Like there are so many. It is more treacherous. There are so many more things to get in the way of something being finished. And, you know, even if it does get made, it's probably not going to be that close to your vision, especially if you're only the screenwriter. Whereas with a short story or a novel, like, you know, when it's done, it's a finished work of art. So
it's just how much of a hand you have in your own fate, you know.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. I know I've been keeping you for a while, and I really, really appreciate it. Anything else that any of you want to shout out? Or
Hard Out Podcast, check it out, subscribe please, so we can get 1,000.
You should.
Which we're still
everybody needs to go watch that Dead Poet Society one. Like,
yeah, no, it was amazing.
I can't believe you pulled that off.
Thanks, dude.
What about you, Mike, Jeff? Anything you wanted to shout out at all? Or
I have nothing to plug right now, so check out Jay's podcast and subscribe to this one if you haven't. And all that good stuff.
I haven't written anything in forever, so I have nothing to promote.
All right. Well, everybody needs to follow all three of these guys. They're all doing super cool stuff. So thank you, guys. It's awesome to connect again.
Thank you.
All right. I'll see you Saturday with
have
Barker.
A good rest of your night. All right. Later. See ya.
Peace.
I love those guys. So grateful to have them as friends. Every time I talk to them, like, I'm gaining something from it. If you're not following them on Twitter, you definitely should be. Jay's also got that super cool podcast, Hard Out, with his brother Chris. Do yourself a favor, go subscribe to that right now. And here's the deal. There's like 2 regular episodes of Reentry left, and then I'm going to be capping it off with the kind of finale, which will be that live script reading. That's going to be in early April. I don't have a hard date for it yet. I'm lining it up with the actors, but I've got some really cool people lined up for it, and it is going to be really fun. I can't wait to do it. So I hope you'll check it out. Make sure you're subscribed. If you follow me on Twitter, there'll definitely be updates there as well. And on that note, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been following along, supporting, all the guests who've been involved, all of you who've been commenting or emailing me. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you for that. I wish you all the best in your writing. And on that note, smash cut to black.